Okay, so the topic of today, inshallah, is maximizing our time on the Arabic language. And as Sister Amal mentioned, we do all have limited time. We're mothers, some of us work. We've got lots of responsibilities. But I believe it's possible for everyone to get to a point that they're confident and happy with their ability to understand Allah's word. And I think we should all strive for it. So we'll talk today about how to use our time in the best means, the best way possible to make that happen. So we start everything, of course, with our mindset. Because if we don't have the right mindset, we won't have Allah's help, and then we won't achieve anything. So our first step is to get our niyyah straight. We have to have the right intentions. We have to know why we want to learn Arabic. Once you realize that the purpose of learning Arabic is to help you actually hear your Creator's words directly as He said them to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah will make it possible. He will know your goal, and He will help you get there. So once you have that niyyah, Allah will put barakah in every effort you do. And subhanAllah, some people, they might be striving for Arabic for the wrong reasons, and it's very challenging. Some of us might be striving for the right reasons, and it's very challenging, and that's both ways are interesting. But Rasulullah told Aisha that ajruki ala qadri nasabiki, that the effort you put in determines the ajr you get. So even though it might be a struggle, the amount of effort you put in is the reward you get. So don't ever feel that just because you're not getting where you want to be as fast as you might think you should, you're still getting lots of reward for that. Just keep your belief that everything is possible with Allah's help. And our job is to get that good intention, the good niyyah, have belief that it's possible, and also to put in the effort on a regular, consistent basis. So the question is why? And of course we know that in the Quran Allah mentioned, but it is an Arabic Quran. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Twice in the Quran. We've revealed it in Arabic Quran that you may understand. So Allah is saying this to everyone, not just to the Arabs. He's telling everyone that it's an Arabic Quran. And even nowadays, the Arabs themselves need to learn that formal classical, the Arabic of the time of the Sahaba, to be able to understand the Quran properly. It's not just those of us who are American Muslims, converts. We have to struggle perhaps a bit more than them, than those who grew up in an Arabic country, but at the same time, everyone nowadays has to make that effort to reach the level of Arabic that will help us to really appreciate the depth of the Quran. So this cassette is my first beginning with Arabic back 20 years ago, whenever I became Muslim, when we still had cassettes in the dark ages. So I just made Arabic the soundtrack of my life. I had one cassette that I drove from Mississippi to Memphis and bought at a grocery store, a halal grocery store, and I just played that Surah Maryam constantly in my car and at home until it just became, I knew all of the sounds, all of the words. I had no idea what it meant, but it kind of became my soundtrack. And subhanAllah, now we have a lot more distractions than that and a lot more opportunities. But even if you don't have time, you can still make Arabic the soundtrack of your life. You can have things constantly playing, whether Quran or whether listening to a lecture, whether listening to a sheikh recite a hadith, the statements of Rasulullah. The more you listen, the more your ear will get trained and attuned to the sounds of Arabic. And that doesn't take any time from you because it's subconscious. You'll just be absorbing the sounds, and you'll even be absorbing some words that you hear repeated. I would say, even if you have no time, start with that. The second step is when you really decide you want to learn. You have a bit of time, you're going to set aside a few minutes or hopefully every day or a couple times a week. This is a piece of advice that I wrote for a group of sisters, and of course you must begin by learning the alphabet. We should never get in the habit of relying on transliterations where the Arabic is written in English, because then that doesn't let us encounter the for sure correct letter that's representing a certain sound. So you must start by learning the alphabet and learning how to read the Quran. And that does require a teacher, but there are, mashallah, many options now, many sisters willing to help with this on a free basis even, that you just begin to learn the basic letters and the pronunciations correctly. Now, once you've done that, and it shouldn't take more than a few weeks, inshallah, just to get the basics, to begin to read fluently to some extent. Of course, you'll have years ahead of you to learn tajweed. We're all still working on our tajweed to read the Quran properly. But after that, that opens your life to reading the Quran in Arabic and to reading, figuring out, seeing patterns in words, seeing how different words are connected to each other. Maybe they have a few letters the same, And that's where the beauty of Arabic starts to come clear. So this is what I really wanted to emphasize, and this is what makes Arabic such a fascinating and easy language to learn. That every word almost in Arabic comes from a 3-letter root. Once you begin to understand how to see those 3 letters in different words, you will have the path. It's like a morphological route that lets you open the door to many other words that have those same 3 letters in them. So here is this dictionary, my old companion. It's called the Hans Wehr Dictionary. I've had it for 20 years, longer than my children and my husband, taken with me to 4 different countries. And what it does is, as you can see in my the side view, it's just got basically by letter, the first letter of each of those 3-letter roots, which lets you look up a root and quickly see all the words that are made from it. I suggest everyone get this even at the beginning of your journey and just read it for fun. You'll start to understand. It will get into your head the concept of how Arabic works. This is even before formal study. So I really suggest this dictionary. Now, as you begin, you know how to read. As you begin to read the Quran, it's time to start really picking up that vocab. And so you have that dictionary. And you're reading Quran now by yourself. So it's time to start making connections between the actual Quran and the translation. And so as you read the Quran, make your mushaf a source of study. Any words you don't know, write them on the side. Because when you go back and read that surah again, you'll be able to read straight from the Arabic, and just the few little words you don't know, you'll be able to pick it up by your small notes in the margins. There are certain tools you can use. There's a very good list online in a couple of places called an 80% of the Quran word list. It's very efficient because if you learn this very short list of words, you'll be able to understand 80% of the words in the Quran. And then all that's left are the more infrequent words. And those are the ones that you put in the margin. Those ones that are not as common, you're going to have to pick them up kind of one by one. There's another good resource that wasn't around whenever I was beginning to learn, but it's called the Quranic Corpus, where you can go and actually look up any surah and read it word by word and click on the word and see what other words come from it. So you begin to really see how this language is made up, how this word appears in different surahs, and it can really give you a sense of the depth of each of those roots that we talked about earlier. So I highly suggest anytime you learn a surah or read a surah that you actually go through this word by word translation as well to really start learning those individual word meanings. Now your third step is actually learning the language, and you might think I've already been learning the language, but learning the alphabet and picking up vocab is not the same as learning the grammar of a language and learning how to put sentences together. And it's actually an amazing thing about the modern day that you don't have to travel to an Arab country anymore, really. It's helpful and it has benefits, but there are so many great online institutes now that it's not really a necessity anymore. So I have given a few suggestions here that I've personally tried. I only wanted to suggest things I've personally used, but there are different programs that are really focused straight on the Quran. We don't necessarily want a program that just teaches you general Arabic, because for most Muslims, our point of learning Arabic is the Quran. We want to be able to open the Mus'haf and immediately understand the words of Allah as well as we can, and then go read our tafsir. We want, when we hear the Quran, for it to affect us and touch our hearts. So these programs, the Sharia program, which was based in Toronto, and Studio Arabiya, which is based in Egypt, and run by a Muslim convert family, actually. These are both programs that have excellent religious teachers who really help you learn Arabic for the sake of the Quran. And I would suggest, once you get to the step of formally wanting to learn, you consider those two or something similar. So I'll just finish by saying, always remember this is your own journey to understand our Creator's words. It's not a competition. We're not trying to beat other people or compare ourselves to other people. Every little step you take forward is something that is a benefit to you, something that helps you understand the Quran more deeply. So never despair. Never feel that you're not where you want to be. Never feel that it's hopeless because you can't pronounce certain letters or certain words. You go to your prayer rug and you ask Allah, and He will make it happen for you. Maybe not immediately. Maybe Allah wants to see you put in that effort. Maybe he wants to teach you patience. But never despair, because it will happen. It will eventually, with your persistence and your dedication and your niyyah, it will happen, inshallah. So keep that trust in Allah and believe in His words, that He made the Quran easy, and He made it an Arabic Quran, so that we could all understand and benefit from it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.